None?
Morning.
I would like to call this special organizational meeting to order. And as you are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, it appears we have a quorum for our meeting. On 2.01, I would note that all the 24, 25 oaths of office, or should that be 25, 26 oaths of office, and L2 and L10 fiduciary conflict of interest forms are on file and have been signed. So moving right along, there are 9 members on the incoming board. The top vote getter wins each officer position. If there is only one nominee for an office, official ballots will still be used owing to the possibility of write-ins. Board officers elected at this meeting assume their officer positions as of July 1, 2025. Tellers for this officer election are Teller Chairperson, Governing Board Executive Assistant Karen Ropkin, Teller Peggy Hunter, and Teller Vicky Erla. They will count all ballots. The first order of business is the election of president. The floor is now open for nominations for president. There are 3 nominations for president. Are there any other nominations for president? Yes.
I believe I was nominated at the prior workshop. I will decline the nomination to run for president.
Well, thank you, Director Quorum. So noted. So we have 2 nominations for president. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, Director Novello, are you willing to accept your nomination for president?
I accept the nomination for president.
Director Chatton, are you willing to accept your nomination for president? Yes, I accept. All right, nominations are now closed. Tellers, will you please distribute the ballots for president? Directors, after you voted, please fold your voted ballot in half. Next part of the script was just tell her, please collect the ballots from each individual voter. Director Novello received the most votes and is elected president. The president-elect will conduct the remaining officer elections today.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Chatton. The nominations, there are two nominations. Let me see. The floor is now open for nominations for Vice President. There are two nominations for Vice President to date. Are there any other nominations for Vice President?
I would like to withdraw my nomination and nominate Rudy Grom.
Thank you very much, Director-elect Turner. Director Grom, do you accept this nomination?
I accept the nomination for Vice President.
Very well. Therefore, there are two Vice President nominations on the floor for Director Horvath and Director Grom. Are there any other nominations for Vice President? For nominees, Director Horvath, are you willing to accept nomination for Vice President?
Yes.
Director Grom, are you willing to accept the nomination for Vice President?
Yes, I do.
The nominations for Vice President are now closed. Teller, please, and thank you for that example. Thank you for the example, Director Chatton. Teller, please distribute the ballots for Vice President. Directors, please make your selection and fold your ballot in half. Teller, please collect the ballots from each individual voter. Director Grom has received the most votes and is elected Vice President-elect. Okay. I hadn't had the chance to read the script ahead of time, so sorry about that, folks. The floor is now open for nominations for secretary. There are 2 nominations for secretary to date. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Very well. Director-elect Forsey, are you willing to accept nomination for secretary?
Yes.
Director Piaskowski, are you willing to accept nomination for secretary?
Yes.
Are there any other nominations for secretary? I did already read that. Nominations for secretary are now closed. Teller, please distribute the ballots for secretary. Directors, please fold your ballot in half. Sure they're all out. Teller, please collect the ballots from each individual voter. Director-elect Forsey has received the most votes and is elected secretary. The floor is now open for nominations for treasurer. There is 1 nomination for treasurer to date. Are there any other nominations for treasurer?
Yes. I'd like to nominate Nick.
Director-elect Turner, do you accept this nomination?
No.
Well, my goodness.
I don't even need any commentary or not.
No, you do not need to comment. Seriously, thank you for. Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Thank you. She is the only, Director-elect Ann Becknell is the current nomination for treasurer, yes. And while we're doing that, Director-elect Becknell, do you accept that nomination for treasurer?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, from both of you. And thank you, Director Williams. Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Very well. Teller, please distribute the ballots for treasurer. Directors, please fold your ballot in half. Teller, you may collect the ballots from each individual voter, please. Director-elect Becknell has received the most votes and is elected treasurer. Thanks. This one. Thank you. So, directors, are there any objections to adjournment of this meeting? Seeing no objections, the special organizational meeting is now adjourned at 9:20 a.m.
Okay, congratulations to all of the new officers. Okay. It is 9:21. I'm going to call the governing board regular meeting to order. Today is April 17th, 2025. We have a quorum, and I will read the meeting procedures right here. The governing board and its committees conduct all of their meetings in compliance with Arizona Planned Community Association open meeting laws per ARS Statute 33-1804 and in concert with RCSCW bylaws, policies, and standing rules. Parliamentary procedures, as outlined in the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order, will also be followed in all meetings as appropriate, consistent with Bylaw 3.07, Procedures for Owner-Member Meetings, Standing Rules number 2 and number 3. Okay, with that, we'll go to our first order of business, which is the approval of minutes from our March 20th regular meeting. Are there any changes, additions, deletions to the meeting minutes? Okay, seeing none, they will be accepted as written. The first order of business is going to new business. Item 3.01 is the fiscal year 25-26 committee applications deadline is May 15th. So if you go to suncitywest.com and go to the governing board page, you will find the form there to fill out. And then the newly elected president will appoint the committee chairs, and they will make their selections from that list for their committees. So again, May 15th is by when that has to be done. The second order of business, 3.02, Director Piaskowski.
Thank you, President Leary. I'm going to make a motion on the postage meter. I move that the governing board allow the general manager to enter a 5-year lease contract from May 1st, 2025 through April 30th, 2030 for a postage meter with all copy at $192 a month before tax in accordance with bylaw 4.20.5.7.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Director Williams, thank you. We'll now, Director Piaskowski, can you explain what this is?
We have a postage meter at the administration building, and basically we have a contract. The contract is $192 if we go into a 5-year lease, and if we take it yearly, it's like, what, $500 a month? Yeah, $500 or $600. So it's kind of like a no-brainer. We're going to save money going into a 5-year as opposed to a yearly contract. Any questions?
Yeah, any questions for Director Piaskowski? Seeing none, would you read the motion again, please?
Certainly. I move that the governing board allow the general manager to enter a 5-year lease contract from May 1st, 2025 through April 30th, 2030 for a postage meter with all copy at $192 a month before tax in accordance with bylaw 4.20.5.7.
Thank you. We will start a voice vote. Yes, is you approve the motion? No, you do not. I'll start with Director Horvath.
Yes.
Director Grom.
Yes.
Director Novello.
Yes.
Director Chatton.
Yes.
Director Piaskowski.
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
And Director Hurley.
Yes.
Okay, it passes. Okay, our next motion is 3.03 for the 2025-26 capital expenditures projects from $50,000 to $99,999. Director Novello.
Thank you, President Leary. I move that the governing board approve in total the expenditures for projects or expenses in the amount shown in the fiscal year 2025-26 capital budget of items $50,000 to $99,999, and authorize the general manager to sign the contract, purchase order, and/or check for each project or expense.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Director Williams, seconded, thank you. Director Novello, if you could explain this, please.
Sure. As we've been going through for the entire year, the governing board and all of our standing committees have been looking through analyzing capital projects that have been assembled for consideration. So this first motion pertains to capital projects under $100,000. For every one of these consent approvals, the governing board considers them in total unless a particular director or one of our committees have identified a project for specific examination. We've discussed this at workshops and so forth. There have been none of those projects that have been pulled out for special examination. Therefore, we're looking at all the capital projects under $100,000 in total.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from the audience? Any online?
Nothing online.
Okay, Director Novell, if you please read your motion again.
Certainly. I move that the governing board approve in total the expenditures for projects or expenses in the amount shown in the fiscal year 2025-26 capital budget of items $50,000 to $99,999, and authorize the general manager to sign the contract, purchase order, and/or check for each project or expense.
Thank you. Okay, we will do a voice vote. Yes, you approve the motion. No, you do not. And I'll start with Director Hurley,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Piaskowski,
Yes.
Director Chatton,
Yes.
Director Novello,
Yes.
Director Grom,
Yes.
and Director Horvath.
Yes.
Okay, it passes. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is 3.04, consent motion for capital expenditures of 100K plus. Well, I'll let Director Novello read it, but please read your motion.
Thank you. I move the governing board approve in total the expenditures for projects or expenses in the amount shown in the fiscal year 2025-26 capital budget of items $100,000 and over, with the exception of the $300,000 RCSCW website redesign phone app, and authorize the general manager to sign the contract, purchase order, and/or check for each project or expense.
May I have a second?
Second.
Director Hurley seconds it. Thank you. Director Novello, please explain what this is.
Thanks, President Leary. I almost messed it up again. As I just explained, we consider, the governing board considers approval of these items in total unless a director or one of our committees has identified a project for specific pullout and debate and examination. So we did have one such project that was identified by the Budget and Finance Committee. That is the RCSCW website redesign and phone app project. So we will discuss that one separately. And otherwise, the governing board will consider approving everything else in total.
Thank you. Any discussion from the board? Okay, seeing none. Any from the audience? Any online?
Nothing online.
Okay, Director Novello, read your motion one more time.
I move that the governing board approve in total the expenditures for projects or expenses in the amount shown in the fiscal year 2025-26 capital budget of items $100,000 and over, with the exception of the $300,000 RCSCW website redesign and phone app, and authorize the general manager to sign the contract, purchase order, and/or check for each project or expense.
Okay, a yes vote is you agree with the motion. No is you do not. I'll start with Director Hurley.
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Director Piaskowski.
Yes.
Director Chatton.
No.
Director Novello.
Yes.
Director Grom.
Yes.
And Director Horvath.
No.
I believe it passes 6-2. Okay, thank you. 5-2, what is it? Dick, isn't it? Yeah, okay, so it's 5-2. Okay, agenda item 3.05, a motion to discuss the pullout. Director Novello?
Thank you, President Leary. I move that the governing board approve the expenditure for the RCSCW website redesign, phone app in the amount of $300,000 as shown in the fiscal year 2025-26 capital budget, and authorize the general manager to sign the contract, purchase order, and/or check for this project or expense.
May I have a second?
Second.
Director Williams seconds. Thank you. Director Novello, please discuss this or tell us what this is.
Certainly. As I mentioned in the last description, one of the committees happens to be the committee that I chair, Budget and Finance, identified the RCSCW website redesign and phone app project to be pulled out and discussed and voted on separately. The committee's reasoning for this, as I explained last week at the workshop meeting, committee's reasoning is that they, in summary, approved the notion. I think all of us, including myself, are very excited to see the technology program start to get underway. What the committee I chair, Budget and Finance, noted is that the scope of that project is very unclear at this time, and wanted to ensure the governing board had the opportunity to really examine and question that in a deeper way.
Okay, thank you. Well, board, then this is that opportunity to discuss that further. Who would like to start? Director Horvath.
Thank you, President. I'd like to know if there's any other update on where you're at with this. Thank you.
All questions go through the board, through the president, sorry.
Yeah, we're still in the process of identifying where we want to start. We do want to start, it seems, with the public-facing website. That's the thing that uses the least integration with our systems. We need to figure out our core systems, whether we stick with TEI, move to the cloud version of TEI, or move to an entirely different POS system, and then we can work on the integrations for like T times and that type of thing. So I think the initial scope will be working on the marketing side of the website, making a lot more glitz and glamour, really market the community a lot better than we currently do. Add real estate listings to there, a nice integration with Zillow or something along those lines, and kind of work on that area. And then on the back end, start the process of identifying our core systems and then integrations with that with the member side portion, which will be a lot more utilitarian. So you can, at your fingertips in an app, you can access the tea times, buy tickets, pay your dues, look at board docs, that type of thing, all kind of in one spot, kind of away from the public view, is kind of the scope we're looking at now. And like I said, the core software is a big thing. We don't want to start doing integrations now, and then 2 years replace our software, and then we just wasted that money on nothing. We have to kind of re-up that. So we want to be kind of strategic with it moving forward, and getting that taken care of that way. But we wanted to kind of get this in the budget sooner. So if we wait another whole year, we're kind of behind the 8 ball. So we kind of want to get this money set aside as soon as possible. So as we do identify these things we can upgrade, we can kind of move forward a little bit quicker than we would if we had to wait for another fiscal year.
Okay, Director Novello.
Thanks a lot. President Leary, I'd like to know from the staff, if possible, where we stand with an overall strategy or a roadmap for technology, understanding that it's been a limited amount of time since Kyle has joined the team. But when can we see that, and how would this initial project fit into that overall, the development of that roadmap and so forth?
Yeah, like I said, me and Stephen was funny. We just talked about this right before the meeting about the next governing board, GM Ops meeting, presenting what we've done so far and our roadmap for the future in the next year or two. And like I said, I think the top priority is to identify what major system we're going to be using, which is whether it's TEI, move it to the cloud version of TEI, or find an entirely different program altogether. So I think it's the beginning of our roadmap, and then working on accounting software like Great Plains on-prem solutions end of life in 2 years. So we're looking to look into that. They're a cloud-based system. We're moving to a different cloud-based system. So yeah, it's kind of it all ties in together on the roadmap, and yeah, we'll be looking to kind of present that in the next month or so.
In the next month, you said. Thank you.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, just to be clear, so the the website redesign, the idea behind this is that from the direction of the board was to create a better user experience and redesign the website so it's more user friendly for the members. And that's really what this initial amount is. What we don't want to do though is obviously do something that's going to cause us to look back and say, well, gosh, we should have done this or should have done that. So part of the process is while we're looking at what the website looks like, how users interact with it, and how they are going to, what kind of experience they're going to have. We're also looking at the back end, and obviously whatever we work through on the back end, as we redesign the website, it'll be teed up for those types of changes. So, the reality is at this point, as I've mentioned before, we don't know the exact scope, and the other than to the point of the website. What I have heard from the governing board was that the website needed to be redesigned to provide a better user experience, and that's what this money is put aside for. The bigger picture of systems, accessibility to services through that website, that is, again, as Kyle mentioned, it's going to take us a little longer because we need to figure out what do the back-end systems look like. And the last thing we want to do is rush into a system and then look back and realize, oh, that was a waste of money. So again, this is really more of that front-end user experience, interaction with the website, providing some features, looking to get a phone app up and running, and then as we fix back-end issues, adding more and more features to that, if that clarifies for any of you.
If I may make an analogy, that our IT systems are our house. And, we may have to remodel the kitchen, the bathrooms, or, knock out a wall here or there. But one of the things we can do up front to make our house better is we can paint the outside. And we can do that, and it doesn't impact what we do inside. So I think it's a safe, having been in this business, it's a safe and expeditious way to increase the experience, enhance the experience, without wasting money for integration that, as Kyle's pointed out, may not happen with the systems that we currently have in place. So just my 2 cents. Yeah, Director Pieskoski.
Okay, with your analogy of the house, can we say that the website would be redesigned first? I mean, our login, can we do that first? And then when we have to do the integration of having tea times and everything else, so when do you, if we can, do that first, right? What time frame do you think that website would be redesigned? In the sense of not all your back walls being knocked out and everything, just login, members, they want to look at the golf courses, that's the, that kind of thing. What time frame do you think that will happen?
I mean, we can start some of the restructuring right away, moving. We can kind of get together and we can figure out what we want to be on the public portion and what we want to have on the login, and we can start reorganizing it as soon as possible. As soon as we identify that board docs or the YouTube videos, that type of thing, do we want that on the public site or do we want that behind the member login? So once we kind of identified that, we can do that kind of piecemeal as we go. And then just kind of add the new features as the integrations work out.
So just to expound on that, so really, again, this would be funding for the next fiscal year. So the goal would be to accomplish this during the next fiscal year.
So at the GM Ops meeting, could you give us kind of an insight of what you think should be a login as opposed to just public?
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
I mean, just so we have kind of a scope of that, and we can look at that. And then we can all go out and look at other logins that we can't get into. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, Director Novella.
To build on Director Pieskoski, I have to be careful here because I'm not trying to, I'm building on my past experience, but reining myself in from saying how. One of the things that's worked in the past, and in my past experience on things like this, is to have a way to communicate with stakeholders about what you're working on, and allow those stakeholders to give you feedback on those priorities. So I think what Director Pieskoski may be, and I would never try to put words in your mouth, Director Pieskoski, but leverage the board and as a way to communicate with all of the members in terms of priorities for what would come first or second. I think many of the board members feel very strongly about this initiative and want it to be a success. That's one way you could consider potentially.
Yeah, for sure. I know if it were to be approved for the 300,000, I know we kind of have that money, but that wouldn't be the way we would act. We would, once we find something we identify that uses a portion of that money, we would present to you guys. We'd be completely transparent about how we're about to do it, not just be carte blanche and do it on our own.
Yeah, and also just to clarify, so the 300,000 is basically a placeholder at this point, and moving forward, you know, we may find that it's enough. We may find that it's not enough. We may have to come back and say, listen, based on our discussions with the board, GM Ops and things like that, as Kyle mentioned, as we move forward, obviously we're gonna do this. We're not gonna do this in a vacuum. We're gonna do this with input, but oftentimes that input and those wants from whether it's the community or the governing board may result in additional costs. So again, I think the thing to be mindful of as well is that the 300,000 may or may not be the final cost of doing this type of initiative. It's really just to get the ball started here.
So, and then again, in my experience, having a well-defined scope up front, then when you have what is called scope creep, where people start adding features and wanting to take things out. So you don't want to be that scope creep, unless you can justify it. So, but yeah, it'll have to be clearly, and Kyle, that'll be incumbent upon Kyle to manage that. So, any other comments from the board? Yes, Director Novello.
Because I haven't talked enough today. Because for all of us on the board, just to remind ourselves, because this is a substantial capital procurement, it's subject to FI-10, which is our procurement policy. So there'll be RFPs issued and bids and so forth, just to remind ourselves that anything over $50,000 has the approval of the governing board.
Okay, Director Hurley, let's give Director Hurley a chance.
Yeah, with all due respect, seems a little amorphous to me. The general manager always has a fact and finding mechanism to come and ask for non-budgeted funds. But just to say, here's $300,000, go do it, to me, just, I can't support this.
Okay, Director Piaskowski.
Director Novello just said that, we all know that our general manager can write a check for $50,000. Under this motion, I would certainly hope that he doesn't plan on writing any checks for $50,000, that they will all be coming through us, even if it is $50,000, so the board knows about it.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be clear on that whole thing, right? Because we're giving you a placeholder of the $300,000. We still need to know who, what, where, and when, and what's going to happen with that $300,000.
Exactly. Yeah, so we go through.
But we don't want any of those
there's
$50,000 checks just going
no,
out. Okay, just making sure we're all clear on the same
Not
page.
the way it works. Yeah. Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the audience? Okay.
Good morning, Board, President Larry. My name is Bruce Lees, 135422. I feel that the governing board is putting the cart before the horse, general manager putting the cart before the horse. We have no scope or specific identity what we're looking to achieve in updating and upgrading this system to virtually put $300,000 of the association's money into a category where we don't have a defined scope, any specifics on what is to be accomplished, any timeline for when it's supposed to be accomplished is an undue expense and burden on the association and the members at large. Take, for example, improving the website capability and the functionality is not going to encourage the 75% of the members that didn't vote in the governing board election to participate any further. It's not going to cause them to select tee times for golf. So without a specific direction by the governing board, I would recommend that the governing board direct the IT to come up with a specific plan, objective, timeline, and list of expectations before we allocate any money to this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Scott, 133818. We've had multiple discussions over this, and we still don't have a presentation of sort of some kind of statement of work. It's been beaten on 1,000 times. It's still all up here, and it's not on some kind of a presentation of sort. This has been one of my greatest passions, is the member experience. That website is antiquated. It's not inviting. It's not engaging. This is the mountain I want to die on, but this is not the way to give out 300 grand and get the journey started. I know that we've had discussions about how we're going to go about procuring. I'm not sold that we're going to be looking at, we had discussed about onshoring, offshoring, and that's something else that it deeply concerns me, is there's this feeling that we're going to keep it local and not leverage the opportunity to offshore this potentially. So from a budgetary spending manner, that concerns me. And the functionality, of course. And then listening to all the items that you're talking, tying this and tying that, and it just was, I'm sorry for the words, but it seemed like it was a word salad. I didn't hear anything about engaging the activities, the club activities, to where we could scroll through it to find out what's going on today. It's one of our greatest assets is in this community, and we just don't plug it together, and it bends my mind. So I would decline it, and especially when we're going to go up and do the master plan this year. I would think that would be an opportunity to get some ideas of what the community wants in a website, phone app. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Waller, 140558. I'm actually in favor of earmarking some money to find out what we don't know, because this takes time, this takes resources to figure out what we can do and what we can't do. My biggest concern is that the way the budget item is listed is I don't want to mislead our owner members. That budget looks like we're going to have, at the end of this $300,000, that we're going to have a redesigned website and 2 phone apps, an iPhone and a Android. And that's my biggest concern. I think we might, maybe not on purpose, but the budget item looks like it's overpromising. What we're really doing is putting some money aside so we can go find out what we need to do, find out how hard it is to do it, and decide what some opportunities are, and that takes money. And if we don't approve it now, it's a year later which we'll be approving it. So that's my biggest concern. And I understand we don't know what we don't know yet. I mean, I understand that part.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the audience?
Nick Turner, 131829. Excuse me. I'm sensing an unease about spending this money, but also a desire to move ahead. So my recommendation would be to take this $300,000, put it into allowances, and then have the general manager come back with facts and findings. as and when there is something more tightly defined and scope as more clearly being defined. I don't think we should take this money out of the budget because we do need to start making progress this year.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Online comments?
Yes, we have one online from Tracy Anderson, 132045. If real estate listings are added to the updated website, would the real estate companies pay RCSW a fee?
Yeah, we're just looking at something like a link into Zillow that would just define the properties in our neighborhood. There's add-ins and integrations for like Zillow or Redfin, that type of thing. So it'd just be a link kind of going to their external website, but it'd be very prominent on there to find the link. So we wouldn't be working directly with the MLS.
Yeah, so, and also, I just want to make it really clear that what we're looking at doing is developing the scope. So, I've heard comments about, we don't know the scope, we don't know the scope. You're right, and we don't know the scope either. And we want to develop the scope with the governing board's input, with the community input, with the charter club's input. So the scope doesn't exist right now, you're absolutely right. What I've said many times, it's the chicken or the egg. So we can either go through that process and then come back next fiscal year and say, okay, we have a scope, we've put it out to bid, and this is what we say it's going to be. Or we can develop the scope, have some funds set aside, get a scope that everyone's, not everyone, because there's always going to be some disagreement, but get a scope that people can say, yes, that's what we want to see, and then move that forward. So it really is, at this point, it's totally a policy decision for the governing board to decide what direction, how you would like it to move forward, or move forward at all. I mean, it's something that the governing board had asked for, which is why it was put into the budget this way, so we could get that process started. But certainly how you want to move forward is certainly a policy decision.
Okay. Director Novello.
As a capital item of this size, would require following the procurement, well, anything requires following our procurement policy, of course. Procurement policy is pretty clear that this would go out to bid and come back. In order to go out to bid, there would have to be a scope definition as I see it. That's our opportunity to see more detail. And we do not, the governing board does not authorize payment of that, or a selection and payment until that comes back satisfactorily. That's my understanding. Now, my question, President Leary, or just to clarify, we've asked this a few times, so I know I'm being redundant, but I believe the intention is for this entire project to be put out to bid. This is not a blank check. Is it the intention to have this go out to bid as I just described?
That's my understanding, yes.
So with that, because I am also very uncomfortable with the lack of scope. Also very uncomfortable with the fact that we do not have any kind of a roadmap for our technology overall. However, waiting another year just does not seem in our association's best interest. So assuming, again, knowing that we have this policy and knowing that we will adhere to the policy gives me more comfort in all of the statements. We will see and we'll have visibility to the bidding process. We will see those bids come back, and that's our opportunity to see scope, in my view. It's not perfect, but that's my view.
Okay, thank you. Director Hurley.
Now I'm confused. Is this money to be spent in-house or out-house? Out-house.
Yeah, this money is intended so that we can develop the scope, put it out to bid, get bids back from vendors that would do the redesign and the phone app. And that's where when we come back, again, this depends on what input we get from the community and from the governing board as to what features you'd like to see. It may come back that because of those features that you're asking for, the bid may come back higher than 300,000, or it may come back 200,000. I don't know what it's going to come back at. And then it might be a matter of, well, you can, for this much money, you can get this, and so we cut out certain things. But it's not going to be done in-house. This is not an in-house redesign by any means.
So if I may, I think what I'm seeing here is that something has shifted. That what I understood that this was to do a website redesign and a phone app, as we're now discussing it in terms of let's scope this out, but not actually do it. Is that what I'm hearing? I guess I'm kind of confused at this point. Director Pyskowski.
Okay, so we just talked about having residents' input and all those things. Maybe the board should consider a technology committee. We have a ton of residents that know technology and can research different websites and logins and talk to people. And that would also help the management team come up with what the residents are looking for. Just a thought.
Director Horvath.
Yeah, I too am confused. I thought it was mostly going to be in-house. I'm very surprised at that too. That's why I've kept asking for some sort of a scope. I myself have built several websites, and before I ever started, I had a scope, and I expect a scope. Thank you.
Director Chatton.
Yes, my comment would be, and this is one of the reasons I voted against some of the expenditures, the more expensive ones. If this does go, if we are using an outside consultant for this, and I haven't seen the board do this before, but I would think if we put out RFPs, that all those responding to the RFPs should be making presentations to the board, not just to the general manager and those people in operations. To me, that kind of money and for that kind of project, that's a policy decision. We're just listening to what proposals are, and I think the whole governing board, from a transparency perspective, needs to hear those RFPs before any decisions are made, whether it's for master planning or for this.
So I would like to bring us back. I'm going to go back to my previous statement. I am unclear as to what this money is for, because it seems to me if we're going to hire an outside consultant, and this was always intended to be outside, we don't need to have budget money for internal use like this. So this has always been external. But do we need $300,000 to help us to develop the scope? If that is in fact what it is, I'm still confused on what we're paying, what we would be paying for.
Just to clarify, the $300,000 is not to develop the scope. We will develop the scope. The in-house part of it will be us developing the scope, and that's with, again, the community input, the board's input. We will develop the scope of what we want it to look like, and then put it out to bid. And then based on those bids, would then award to a company to obviously take what we said we would like the website to do or the app to do and implement that. So no, this money is not to scope out. I'll make that very clear. And I can't remember who had mentioned it, but the idea of moving it to allowance funds, I mean, if you wanted to do it that way as well, and then, bring it back, again, it's totally up to you, the board. It's a policy decision on when you would like to see this move. Because again, if we have to go through that process and then bring it to the board and get it in the next budget, then it absolutely will be longer than if we have it somewhere set aside, prepare the scope, and get the process started. But again, we will, I'm happy to do however the board would like to move it forward.
Director Horvath?
Yeah, because I was just going to say, when you go out for bids, that shouldn't cost us any money to go out for a bid. And so upon the desire to award a bid will be the time for the money.
Correct. And the point is that we would not want to, there was not enough time from the time of Kyle coming on board with the organization and preparation of this budget to prepare a full scope, because then it would be basically our scope as staff, and it should not just be our scope. We're going to have our, obviously, input, and we're going to want to get, of course, board input and get a community input. So it would be impossible, it would have been impossible for us, it is impossible for us to put together a scope right now. The idea is, you set aside the funds, we put together the scope with, to Kyle's point, full transparency of what that scope's looking like, give folks an opportunity to respond to that and say, well, yeah, we love that, we would like to see this as well. And then once we come to a final conclusion of, okay, this is what the scope looks like, this is what we're asking a vendor to produce for us, we want all these list of things, we put it out to bid. That bid may come back, and that bid may come back at, again, I'm throwing out numbers, whatever, $200,000, and we're good. The bid could come back at $500,000, and then it's a board decision. Do you want to spend $500,000, or do you want to trim some of those scope items off? But again, this is not money to develop that scope. That part of it will be done in-house.
So, yes, Director.
I think there's a misunderstanding. It seems like the example you're drawing is put it in this year's budget or put it in next year's budget. That's not the case. You can develop your scope, go out for bid, find out what the bid is, bring that to the board under a facts and finding. We can do the money right then. We don't have to wait till next budget cycle. I know you may not be too familiar with facts and findings, but there are other options of taking care of non-budgeted expenses. And it seems to me that we all agree that this needs to be done. We'd like to have it done. I think we're just talking about how we're going to fund it. And to me, putting in this into the budget with just to be determined later is not good policy, and it can certainly be handled at the time with the fact and finding. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, who was first? Okay, Director Horvath.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it very clear, I'm very into this project. I can't wait to see a website and the technology improve in our association, because it's what's going to keep our association going for years to come. So we have to do this. But like Director Hurley said, I'm glad we could add the funds whenever he actually needed it. I'd be much more comfortable that way. Thank you.
Director Nobello.
It may not be the same analogy, but we do have a bit of a precedent. A year ago, we were facing a lot of ambiguity around wage increases tied to minimum wage, right? Now, granted, that was expense monies, so it's not the same process. Nonetheless, as a board, we had to consider that, and we had to put some money aside, and we directed the operations staff to hold off on certain funding in order to hold off on starting certain projects until we knew more about that. I believe there's a bit of a precedent in terms of budget process, although not the same as Director Hurley is mentioning. We all believe, I'm hearing that many of us believe, I can't say all, many of us believe this is a very important initiative. I've both as a committee member, as a board member, and as a resident, I've just been wondering what in the world are we waiting for in terms of getting this started. So I really want to see this move forward. I do not want to see this wait another year. So that's my biggest concern as well. As long as we are clear that this is what we want, this is what we expect, and we need the staff to continue to move forward, I think that would be a satisfactory way to move forward. Again, the Budget and Finance Committee had very similar concerns. Everybody seemed to be on the Budget and Finance Committee. Everybody wanted to move forward, but there's no roadmap, there's no strategy, and no definition of how exactly we're going to proceed, and we understand why. So it's just a matter of figuring out how do we break down this annual cycle so that we can move forward if warranted or when warranted. I believe that's what you're saying, right?
Director Hurley.
Okay, let me say it again. It's not a decision between this year's budget or next year's budget. They can go ahead and start the project, get the scope out there and get it out for bid. Once they get the bid, they can bring it back to the board under a facts and finding. And we can budget that money outside of the annual budget. So to say it's this year or that year is not real, not correct.
Okay. Yes, Director Pyskowski.
Director Hurley, I think you have a very valid point. I would love for us to direct the management team to go out and fact and find it, bring it back to us when they have an idea of what it's gonna cost us or how much it's going to initially cost us. And if we can do the budgeting in next year, it's great. I mean, it doesn't need to be budgeted, however, yeah, I'm not too sure, but yes.
Okay, any other discussion from the board? Any more? Oh, Mr. Lease.
Bruce Lees, 135422. It's kind of funny that one of the directors mentioned the pullouts regarding last year's potential for wage increases and how the board and the association was going to accomplish holding back almost $800,000. And then once they decided to do that, once the elections or the wage increase thing was off the table because it wasn't successful at the ballot, that they decided to go ahead and spend $255,000 to update Lizard Acres after they had pulled that out of the budget on the expense. And there's no added benefit to that remodeling. But I would like to propose that we do keep the scope of work active in determining this website and app, but not allocate any money in the budget cycle for this, to take it out of the allowances that we typically don't spend. I think we have currently $480,000 in allowances allocated, and we typically have about 90,000 remaining at the end of the year. I think that would be enough to have to spend without allocating a $300,000 additional expenditure without any scope to this project. I'm interested in developing it all, but again, without a scope, without any RFPs, without any fact finding, we're just throwing something at something we don't have any expertise in, and we don't really have an idea of what the total cost will be. $300,000 will probably not be enough to make this happen, so I don't want to allocate any money to it until we know more about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Okay. Director Horvath.
Yeah, I sense that we're talking in a circle here. I think it's time that we propose some amendment to what we're doing.
So would you like to? Yes. Okay, we will stand at ease for a moment.
Sorry, I guess I didn't realize that they can do a fax and anything. It's crazy. And then if
For any non-budgeted.
Right.
Find that.
It's all gonna come out of the same place.
Yeah,
It's gonna come out of operating.
exactly.
You learn something every day.
Putting a bookmark down, or in effect, it's kind of the same thing, except when you do a bookmark, you don't know what you're gonna get.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
basically a slush.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
if you do facts and finding, you know exactly what you're gonna get.
Okay, I'm going to bring us back. What were we in? We were in standing down, or what were we doing? We were standing at ease. Okay, we're no longer at ease. Okay, after conferring with our parliamentarian, I'm going to ask if there are any amendments that anybody wants to make to this. If not, I have a suggestion. I don't know if that's kosher what I just did, but okay. What I'm going to suggest, I'm going to make a motion for substitution of this motion with wording to the effect that the staff develop a scope of work for our website and a phone application for the two primary platforms, Android and iPhone. They send out that scope of work or that request for a request for proposal, and then once they get responses back, that they issue a facts and findings and come to the board for money for a well-defined scope at that time, some point in the future. Yeah, I made a motion, yes. Same.
So what happens to the original motion?
So the motion is substituted.
We never vote on it.
We never voted on it, right?
And that means it.
Yeah, so there are no monies involved at this point. So that's my motion. It's been seconded. Any discussion from the board?
Please reread your motion.
Director Hurley has a comment.
Right. I agree with the substitution for a couple of reasons. One, facts and finding will, when it's presented, will have to have a scope to it and what exactly is going to take place. All right, so facts and finding is one mechanism that the general manager can use. The other is the general manager is authorized to spend up to $50,000. Now, Director Paskowski asked that if that's going to happen, that he brings it to the board. Would be nice if he did, but not absolutely necessary. So there are ways to make this proceed, which I think everybody wants, without necessarily setting aside cash for it.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Comments from the audience? Comments online?
Nothing new.
Okay, so I will state my motion again. I move that the staff in the subject of the website redesign and the phone app topic, that the staff define a scope of work, send that out to get bids, requests for proposal, and once the requests for proposals have been received and they've narrowed it down to at least three, that they then approach the governing board with the facts and findings and ask for funding at that point.
Jack, point of order.
Yes.
The motion that Christine read, 3.05, is on the floor and been seconded. Doesn't that motion have to be voted on first?
I was advised we're substituting it. Is that not correct?
Substitute is a form of they're actually amending the motion by.
So we're going to vote on the amendment first and then vote on the motion?
You vote on the amendment. If the amendment is adopted, then you can vote on the motion as amended.
Wouldn't it be cleaner just to vote on the motion first and then the amendment?
No. No, you have to vote on the amended part first.
Okay.
Okay, Director Novello.
Recommend that we somehow reference in your amended motion, right, please consider referencing FI10, which is the procurement policy, right? Because a lot of what is in the words that you described is already in the procurement policy, that we're directing the staff go and, in accordance to FI10, issue an RFP, come back to us, right, et cetera. Thank you.
Okay. So is that an amendment to the amendment? I'm sorry. I was afraid of that. Okay, so we have to vote on that first. Okay, so
I'm
so the amend, so here, let me just one at a time. So the amended the amendment to the amendment is that I move that the motion now says that in the topic of the RCSCW website redesign and phone app, that the staff develop a scope of work and that scope be submitted and published for request for proposal per policy FI10, and once responses have been received, a facts and findings be presented to the governing board at a future date. Now we're going to vote on adding the FI10. Oh, come on.
And no, another point of order.
Yes, thank you.
To cancel this motion puts it back into the operational side, because everything you're saying that they're going to do is already in policy. You're not telling them to do anything different than what their normal course of action would be. So I recommend we just vote no on the motion that Christine made and let the general manager do what he does.
Yeah, yes, the question was, can we do that? And the answer is yes. What the motion for substitution was, because we cannot add an agenda item to add an item to the agenda to give them direction to the staff. We were trying to work within the context of this motion, but the point has been made. So I don't know if we need to do that. Yes, Director Novello.
And if I may, I personally, I like the idea, although it seems very onerous, right? I like the idea of the governing board taking a position on this initiative, because we've taken a lot of time to consider it. So directing the staff to do what they do, right, in this case, has some value to me as a director. It shows that we did put a lot of time into this, and we're asking specifically on this item that something happen, because that's all. It may not be necessary, Director Hurley. I hear you entirely, but I'm in favor of moving forward.
Okay, we have to vote. Parliamentarian says we have to vote on the amendments. So the amendment that I made about FI10, can vote yes as you agree to the amendment, which was to add FI10. No says you do not. So I'll start with Director Hurley.
Yes.
Yes, you agree with the amendment.
Yes, I agree with the amendment.
Okay. Director Williams.
Yes.
Okay. Director Piaskowski. Yes. Director Chatton.
Yes.
Director Novello.
Yes.
Okay. Director Grom.
Yes.
Okay. Director Horvath.
Yes.
Okay. So we've agreed to that amendment. Now, the other amendment was and correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, so the other amendment was the amendment to substitute. So yes is you agree to the substitution, no you do not. No. No. So the question was, no, what we just voted on was adding FI10 to the motion to substitute. So now we're voting on the motion to substitute itself.
Point of order again.
Yes.
By voting on the amendment, does that make the original motion null and void?
If you vote yes, it would. On the one we have not yet voted on, the amendment that we have not yet voted on. So what we voted on
I got it.
Okay,
But if we vote for the amended, it's the substituted motion, does that make the original motion null and void? Does it kill it? Or do
Yes.
we have to go back and vote on that too?
no, it kills it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so to be clear, what we just voted on and what the board said yes to was to add the FI-10 to the motion of substitution. So now we're going to vote on the method of substitution itself as it has been amended. So yes, you would agree to the motion for substitution as amended. No, you do not. And if you say no, then we've got the original motion, right? Okay, stand at ease.
The FI-10 amended the substitution motion.
Yes,
So
correct.
if you vote yes on the substitution, that takes out the original motion. Right.
Yeah.
That's what we all just think of, way too complicated than that.
Again. Yeah.
Didn't need any of it.
Why do they make it complicated? That's what our world's gonna be like next year, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You better learn the bylaws and the policies
Yeah,
and know what parliamentary procedure is,
yeah.
or else you'll get in this morass.
Oh, yeah. You can smell it coming.
What did you say?
I said I can smell it coming. Yeah.
So you're gonna be sitting in our audience next year?
Say what? Don't expect to see me. Either that or I'm going to be front row.
Just asking. Oh, you're funny. Say what?
Will you have a poker face while you're in the?
Oh, hell no.
Why, that takes all the fun out.
Say what?
You might want to check the newspaper once in a while for me.
Boy, we know how accurate that is.
Oh, my goodness.
And how many times you can see your name in it.
I have a scrapbook.
Pardon me?
I have a scrapbook. I do.
Yeah.
Okay, we are no longer at ease. Okay. Okay, we have two votes that we have to take. So let me recap. So we have voted on and accepted the amendment to the amendment, which added the FI-10 language. So the two votes that are left are the first vote we have to do is to vote on the amended substitution amendment. And depending upon how that goes, if it's yes, then we do not have to vote on the original amendment. Right. But if it goes no, then we have to vote on the original amendment. Original motion, thank you, thank you. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask for a vote on the amendment for substitution. Yes, is you agree with it? No, you do not. And I'll start with Director Hurley.
Yes.
Director, excuse me, Director Williams.
Yes.
Director Piaskowski. Director Chatton.
Yes.
Director Novello, sorry.
Yes.
Director Graham.
Do we have the wording that we're actually voting on?
The wording is the amendment for substitution as amended, says that in the topic on the subject of the RCSCW website redesign and phone app, that the governing board direct the staff to develop a scope of work, submit it for RFP per policy FI-10, and once they get returned bids, they submit it as a facts and findings to the board for funding at a date in the future.
Yes.
Okay, Director Horvath.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to, in order to make this following Robert's Rules of Order, we have to vote on the same thing again. Okay, so Director Horvath.
Yes.
Director Grom.
Yes.
Director Novello.
Yes.
Director Chatton.
Yes.
Director Piaskowski.
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
And Director Hurley.
Yes, amen.
Amen. Okay, so then for purposes of this discussion item, the 300K will not be rolled back into the capital budget. Okay, wow. I think that's the deepest I've ever gone into Robert's Rules of Order. Okay, with that, I will go to agenda item 10. Excuse me. Can I have, we'll go to director comments. I'll start with Director Horvath.
Well, I'm glad we got through that. My congratulations to the new officers of the 25-26 board. I will definitely support those officers, obviously. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Grom.
I look forward to working with the new board after the 1st of July.
Okay. Director Novello.
Dittoing all the other comments in terms of working with our new board, and thank you for your trust in me. But as pertains the budget, because I'm the budget lady, I'm the budget and finance this year. What we just did was very important, and while I too was frustrated at times with the amount of time, it's really important that we do follow parliamentary procedure. So I would like to thank our parliamentarian and our parliamentarian to-be sitting behind us. They do very, very important work. And while it's a bit onerous at times, it's important for us to follow the processes and procedures. So I thank them for that. We were conferring with Director Grom's copy of Robert's Rules of Order as well, so we all have a lot to learn. But it was important that we came to this conclusion, and I look forward to seeing forward motion on this technology initiative. So thanks to all for bearing with us while we sorted that out. And one more commercial next week. Speaking of budget, we have two very important public budget forums on Wednesday morning and Thursday evening right here in the lecture hall. Our CFO, Cliff Swan, will be walking us through the financial plan, which is the not the capital, but the expenses portion. This is the portion that are near and dear to all of our hearts, because this is what we're going to pay in dues, proposed expenses, and why those are there, a very important level of understanding. So I hope to see you there with us. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Director Chatton.
I just want to say congratulations to all our new officers, and I look forward to working with them in the new year.
Thank you. Director Piaskowski.
I'm going to ditto that. Looking forward to the new board and a great next year.
Director Williams.
It's been a long haul. We've gotten through a lot today, but I do look forward to working with the new members of the board. And since math was always my long suit, I would just like to point out, in case you haven't noticed, you will have 5 women on the board. We're ready.
Director Hurley.
I have to comment after that. To the new officers, congratulations. To the new board, good luck.
And I will also add my congratulations to the new officers. I think it's great that there are 5 women on the board, so I think that's super. Mr. General Manager, do you have any comments?
Again, I just want to offer also my congratulations to the elected board members and also to the newly elected governing board officers. Looking forward to the coming year, and it's we got a lot of work ahead of us, but it's going to be a good year. So looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the audience?
Yeah, Jim Scott, 133818. Again, congratulations, new officers. Congratulations, new directors as well. But Tim, I really want to give you a tip of the hat. You really took something that was going to be DOA and you revived it to move forward. And this is something the community really, really needed. You've really impressed me with your knowledge. And I appreciate you. I hope you stay engaged with the general board as well with your vast knowledge. Thank you very much.
My name is Peggy Hunter, rec card number 65441. President Leary, directors of the board, distinguished guests, I'm here today because of my ongoing concerns with unauthorized people using our dog parks. We have people that have come in from Portobello and Surprise. We have no monitors that check this. And when we've had a problem and I've called, the response is, I'm here by myself, I can't come down. The problems that we've had are dogs have attacked other dogs, causing injury and enormous vet bills for the owners, and the person that owns the dog that has caused the problem just leaves. And we have no way of knowing who they are. We've had people get in fights, injuring a person, the person leaves. We don't know who they are and what can be done. Now, I have provided information in the past of how Sun City authorizes members, only members, to come into the dog park. It doesn't cost $50,000, doesn't even cost $300,000. So it can be done, and it's really needed. I feel like the dog parks have just been put on a low totem pole. So I have written 1 letter to Mr. Leary, 3 letters to Mr. Chatton, and 1 letter to the GM, Mr. Erno, with absolutely no response. And I find this very frustrating. Thank you.
Suzanne Jones, 110390. Folks, it's time to get your tickets for the raffle car that we're going to be giving away Valentine's Day 2026. You can get a ticket for $20 or 6 tickets for $100. What a bargain. This is a beautiful car. It's ruby red. It's a Mustang. It goes really fast, has very low mileage. I call it Arrest Me Red, but the actual title is Ruby Red. So please come down to ARC, or you can see me today. I have tickets that you can purchase for it. All of the proceeds of this go towards ARC, and it helps ARC to support other charities because we're a 501c3 and pay off that doggone building debt that we have. So thank you.
We have online comments.
Yes, there are a couple. Lynn Kellis, 127120, congratulations to the new incoming board members. And Sandy J. with no number, congratulations to the incoming board members. That'd be it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Can everyone hear me? So the board espouses transparency and openness. But it appears that that may not be the case. When a member writes letters to the board and to the management team and doesn't get a response, how is that open communication or transparent? I would welcome some comment from the board, the president, on how that may be improved, and if you have a response to that specific lady's inquiries.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat. I was getting a note while
Okay,
you were
sir.
speaking. Sorry about that.
Again, espoused by the board, openness and transparency, but a member resident expressed concern over a situation that they encountered, apparently multiple times, wrote letters to the management and to the governing board, and received no response from anybody in those capacities. How is that open and transparent? I would ask you, Mr. President, to address that overall and specifically to this resident's concerns, why the courtesy wasn't even provided to that resident's concerns.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to have Casey Huda come up and speak. We literally just met with representatives from the K-9 Club on Tuesday, and there were some concerns that were addressed with that, and I'm not sure exactly where I'm not sure there you're back there. I'm not sure where the letter that you are referring to, it may have gone to staff. I mean, I don't recall getting it, and I say it didn't happen. I'm just.
The lady wrote a letter to the president of the governing board and to you directly. She stood up here and just told you that.
No, I understand that. Let's discuss. Yeah, I understand that, and I agree. I'm saying I don't recall that letter. I'm not saying I didn't get it.
That's part of the problem, sir.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the dog park, though, if we can.
Yeah,
respond to that.
but let me respond to Mr. Lease's concern. I also do not recall getting a letter. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. When I get letters, I respond to them. So again, I cannot say that I didn't get it. I just don't recall getting it.
I understand, sir, because this goes back to a situation a year ago when I wrote a letter to actually the general manager regarding the pool at R.H. Johnson and the overlay projects, and I never received a response, and I waited like 2 weeks. And then I attended a meeting here, and the general manager was here, and I confronted him about it, and he got all pissy with me about it, and I can be pissy right back. So it didn't really resolve anything, but it really set in my mind the attitude was, we're in this position, and you're in that position, don't come play in our sandbox. And that pisses me off. And I will tell you, I will stomp a mud hole in your ass publicly if I have to.
Okay, that's enough.
Right.
That's enough.
I apologize for that comment.
No, that's enough.
But there's no way that you should disregard a member's concerns and not be able to address it. That's my concern. Thank you very much.
Just to be clear, look, I can't speak for the previous general manager. I can tell you that if a letter is sent to me, all efforts, we would never intentionally not respond to somebody. I would certainly never intentionally not respond to you, but I wasn't here at that time. So if you sent me a letter, I'll respond. I'm simply saying, I don't recall this letter. It may have gone through my admin staff, and they may have then provided information to the appropriate staff for follow-up, and perhaps it was mistakenly not done. So I apologize for that if that's the case. But if we don't mind, is it okay if she responds to some of the dog park stuff, or you want her to speak first?
I'd like to hear from Mrs. Hunter.
Again, my name is Peggy Hunter, 65441. I forgot to say I'd be very open to meet with anyone to discuss these concerns. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, President. About a month ago, we received 3 different petitions from the canine companion and then residents themselves. Todd received one, we received one, and Sabrina received one, all from different areas of the dog park. So we came together to figure out how we could come to a conclusion and figure out what's going on, because we're getting it from residents and then we're getting it from clubs. So is this all conspiracy? You know what I mean? Like, or are they coming together and we just need to figure out the right way to handle it? So we met on Tuesday with the new president of Canine Companions. And I believe she is the VP or the secretary, I can't remember. But I think we had a very good meeting. They are gonna follow up. I did send a synopsis of our meeting on yesterday, and she came back with some clarifications. So you guys, as a Canine Companion Club, I'm not sure if you're still part of that, because we met about 2 years ago, a year and a half. Yep, and you walked away with agreement on whatever we spoke about. And then they brought the same attention. So with that scope is IT. I'm not going to speak on his behalf. That is not my lane, but that is something that we are looking into to see what we can do to help in the strategic plan of figuring something out for the safety of the community. But the one thing that they mentioned Tuesday was that the people at the dog park refused to turn in incident report forms. So if a dog is being attacked or a human is being attacked, they don't want to turn it in because they think we're going to take the dog park away. That is not at all what's going to be done. But if we don't know transparency from the community, we can't help you. So no news is good news to us. So it's very important to relay that information, that if something does occur, an incident report needs to be filed. And we gave a specific communication of who to report it to. And they said that they do have that list on the bulletin board down there. So it is, we're working on it. I didn't get a letter, so I don't know, but you didn't say my name either.
No.
But we have been working with the dog park for, since I've started here. And that's okay, annual basis with the dog park, because it is a community common area, that it's not just the club, but the club does help communicate things that happen to us so we're aware of what's going on. So it is important that there is that open transparency with the club and the community. So again, I don't know anything about the letter. I apologize, but Peggy, you and I had very good communication.
Very good.
So you can start with me if you want as well, and I'm willing to help with that.
May I address some of these things that Casey brought up?
Board, do we want to give her additional time? Yes?
Okay.
Okay.
Casey has always been very encouraging in helping the dog park. And as she knows, I have advocated for restricted access to the dog park when I was president. And we were always told IT couldn't reach out that far, which I have a hard time believing. Okay, Sun City has the ability to restrict non-members going into their dog park without IT, and they require the dogs' owners provide immunization for the dogs. We have no idea in the dog park now if dogs are being brought in, if they've had their shots or anything. So it's a real concern, and it could be a real liability for the rec center. So I really encourage for this to happen, please. Thank you.
And just to add to our meeting and what Casey talked about, so one of the things that has already happened is Russ Boston and his team, they've already ordered signs. I have it literally up here. I'm not going to be able to see it very well, but private property, no trespassing, the state statute, and valid rec card holders only. So we're looking at the low-tech approach. We are also looking at technology approach, but part of the technology approach is a bigger picture as to if we move to some sort of RFID type practice or for all of our facilities and such. Or so again, that's a bigger picture, a bigger discussion that we're having as to if there's a process for that. Whether or not we go to the extent of requiring shot records and things like that, that's going to be a policy decision for the board to look at. We certainly can look into those things, but again, if I apologize if there was no response to the letter you received. It was never intentional, and certainly happened to meet with you or anybody else on this issue, as we already did with some folks. But certainly if you would like to discuss it in detail, one-on-one, happy to do that with you.
That's good. I have seen the signs that you're referencing to. I have pointed those out to people, and the response is just walking into the park.
I want to just kind of say that when we spoke with the canine companion, at this point, it is a very generic deterrent that we're working on. It's baby steps because we do have a little bit of a roadblock with the technology right now. So we'll do our best. I know Sabrina is going to be working with more sanitizing, so there'll be more staff probably present at times. That might help a little bit, and see what we can do from there.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the audience? There was a note sent to me, something about there was concern evidently in the audience about seconding all the motions that we went through. And, you know, make sure that they're recorded in the minutes. Seconds are not recorded in the minutes. They are merely a formal process to start conversation. That's all they do. So it just opens the floor for discussion. So we don't record them. I acknowledge the person who offers the second as a courtesy to that individual to let them know that they have been recognized. So that's your Robert's Rule of Order lesson for today. Okay, unless there are any more items, anything online since no, okay, nothing new online. Okay, then with that, our next workshop is May 9th, 2025, 9 a.m. in this lecture hall, and the next governing board regular meeting is May 22nd, 2025, 9 a.m. in the lecture hall. And with that, I will adjourn this meeting at 10:51.